In the dusty outskirts of a forgotten town called Eldridge, where the sun baked the earth into cracked mosaics and dreams evaporated like morning dew, lived a boy named Elias. At 16, Elias was no stranger to hardship. His father had vanished into the haze of a mining accident when he was 5, leaving behind a widow who stitched clothes by lamplight and a stack of unpaid bills that grew like weeds. Elias's world was a patchwork of hand-me-downs and half-hearted hopes. School was a luxury he could barely afford, but his mind was a voracious beast, devouring library books on astronomy under the flicker of a single bulb. Elias's nights belonged to the stars. From the rickety roof of his family's shack, he'd gaze at the velvet sky, tracing constellations with fingers calloused from odd jobs, hauling crates at the market, mending fences for grumpy farmers. "Those lights up there," he'd whisper to the wind, "they don't care where you're from. They just burn." But the stars offered no answers to the gnawing hunger in his belly or the taunts from kids at school who called him Starboy, with sneers instead of awe. His mother, weary-eyed Mira, would pat his head and say, "Dreams are free, Eli, but survival costs everything." One crisp autumn evening, everything shattered. Mira collapsed in the kitchen, her hands clutching her chest, the needle slipping from her fingers like a final surrender. The doctor in town, a man with a mustache like a broom and eyes that avoided the poor, declared it a heart too broken to mend. "Pneumonia from the damp," he muttered, scribbling a prescription Elias couldn't afford. By dawn, Mira was gone, buried in a pauper's plot under a sky that mocked him with indifferent twinkles. Elias was alone, 17 now, with a shack that echoed like a tomb and a future as barren as the desert. Grief wrapped around him like barbed wire, but rage fueled his steps. He sold what little they had, a tarnished locket, his father's old watch, and bought a one-way bus ticket to the city of Luminara, 300 miles away, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and universities whispered promises of escape. "I'll make it," he vowed to the empty seat beside him. For her, for us, Luminara was a beast of its own, honking taxis, indifferent crowds, and rents that devoured dreams whole. Elias crashed on park benches, scavenged dumpsters for meals, and took night shifts washing dishes in a greasy diner where the owner barked orders like a drill sergeant. His obsession with the stars didn't fade, it sharpened into a blade. By day, he'd sneak into the public library, poring over astrophysics texts, sketching orbital paths on napkins stained with coffee grounds. But reality clawed back. Auditioning for scholarships at Luminara University felt like shouting into a void. The admissions panel, crisp suits and polished accents, glanced at his faded application and the address of a homeless shelter. "Impressive self-study," one woman said kindly, "but we need more than passion. We need proof." Rejected. Again. And again. Elias's reflection in the library's grimy window showed hollow cheeks and eyes ringed with defeat. Maybe they were right, he thought, punching a wall until his knuckles bled. Stars are for people who don't fall. It was in that pit of despair, under a bridge where rain drummed like accusations, that Elias met Lena. She was a street artist, her canvas the crumbling concrete, her paint scavenged from alley trash. With wild curls and a laugh that cut through the gloom, Lena painted murals of impossible worlds, flying cities, rivers of light. "Art's like breathing," she told him one night, sharing a soggy sandwich. "You don't wait for permission, you just do it." Over flickering barrel fires, they talked. Elias confessed his stellar dreams, Lena revealed her own scars, a runaway from a foster system that chewed up kids like kindling. "We don't choose the dark," she said, her brush dancing across the wall. "We choose what we build in it." Lena's fire ignited something in Elias. Together, they schemed. She taught him to hustle, selling her sketches at markets while he fixed radios for pocket change. He shared star maps, and she wove them into her art, creating pieces that glowed under blacklight, galaxies unfurling like hope. Their first sale was to a hipster cafe owner who paid $50 for a cosmic coffee sleeve design. It wasn't much, but it bought Elias a second-hand telescope and a notebook for equations. "See." Lena grinned. "Shadows make the light brighter." Word spread. A local news van stumbled on their underbridge gallery during a fluff piece on urban renewal. The reporter, a wide-eyed kid fresh from journalism school, filmed Elias peering through his telescope, explaining black holes with the fervor of a prophet. "The universe doesn't discriminate," he said on camera, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Gravity pulls everyone the same. The clip went viral in Luminara's niche feeds, art nerds, stargazers, the quietly desperate. Donations trickled in, a telescope fund, art supplies, even a couch to crash on. But success is a jealous lover, and it tested them. University scouts circled again, this time with offers. Elias aced the entrance exam, his mind a supernova of knowledge forged in isolation. Yet doubt crept in like fog. What if I fail up there? He confided to Lena one starlit night on her rooftop. What if I'm just a fluke? She took his face in her paint-flecked hands. Flukes don't survive bridges and bus rides. You're a comet, Eli, trailing fire, defying the pull. Her words were a tether, pulling him from the edge. Freshman year at Luminara University was a whirlwind of lectures and late nights. Elias majored in astrophysics, his dorm a chaos of star charts and coffee mugs. Professors marveled at his intuition, peers whispered about the rags to rockets kid. But the old shadows lingered, imposter syndrome whispering that he didn't belong among the trust fund telescopes. Midterms hit like meteors, he bombed a quantum mechanics quiz, the red ink blurring with unshed tears. I can't do this, he texted Lena, who was now exhibiting in galleries. Her reply, a photo of their first mural, caption, you already did the impossible. This is just the encore. That failure became his forge. Elias joined a research team studying exoplanets, poring over data from distant probes. He coded simulations on borrowed laptops, spotting patterns others missed, a rogue planet's wobble hinting at hidden life. His thesis advisor, Drive Hale, a grizzled veteran of Hubble repairs, pulled him aside after a seminar. Kid, you've got the eye of Hubble himself. But science isn't about never falling, it's about calculating the trajectory back up. Elias nodded, the weight lifting like a launched satellite. Years blurred into breakthroughs. At 25, Elias defended his PhD, his presentation on orbital resilience, modeling human potential through celestial mechanics, drawing standing ovations. He'd analogized personal grit to gravitational slingshots, using failure's pull to hurl toward greater speeds. The audience, a sea of academics and donors, didn't see the boy from Eldridge, they saw a pioneer. Post-grad, NASA recruited him for their exoplanet hunter team, stationing him at Mauna Kea, where the air was thin and the stars so close you could touch them. But Elias never forgot the shadows. He founded the Mira Initiative, scholarships for underprivileged dreamers, kids with fire in their eyes and empty pockets. Lena became his partner in every sense, their life a canvas of shared orbits, her murals adorning observatory walls, their daughter tracing constellations on her tiny hands. On clear nights, Elias would climb to the dome's peak, telescope trained on Andromeda, and whisper thanks to the void. We all start in the dark, he'd say to interns huddled around him. But light isn't given, it's claimed. One defiant spark at a time. Elias's story rippled outward, a gravitational wave touching lives he'd never meet. A girl in a trailer park bought his book with babysitting money, her telescope now pointed at medical school. A boy in a refugee camp sketched his equations, dreaming of engineering bridges instead of burning them. Proof that the universe, vast and uncaring, bends to those who refuse to break. In the end, Elias learned that motivation isn't a flame that never flickers, it's the oxygen you breathe into the embers when the wind howls fiercest. From the ashes of loss, he'd risen, not to conquer the stars, but to remind us they're within reach. And in that reminder, he found his truest orbit, home.